of our Solana Beach Civic and Historical Society Old Timers interviews.
Old time, okay. Good.
And we are so happy that you get to be the first trial run here. Can you, I'm Michelle Stribling, the Solana Beach Civic and Historical Society
My name's
president.
Nancy Gottfredson.
And Robert Gottfredson, also known as Bob.
Bob, we'll call you Bob today.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did read the articles that you did for an interview, Bob. I learned a little bit about your childhood and your family coming across the plains in a
Yes.
Oh,
yeah
handcart.
handcart. So, were they Mormon?
Yes.
Okay, because that was my background as well.
Mhm.
So, they made it to Utah, and then
Eventually.
They didn't make it.
oh, what happened?
They didn't make it in one shot. They ran out of money, and he had to find work. And he made a lean-to, a sort of a dugout in the side of the hill for his family, and disappeared for about 3 months while he made money,
Wow.
so they could travel on. And luckily for them, what happened was another wagon train came through, and his wife's sister had married well, and the man had a wagon, and he had enough money to buy them a wagon,
Wow.
so they could all travel on together.
It's amazing when you hear those pioneer stories. I would never survive.
I don't think I would either.
So how long were they in Utah, and how did you end up in Pasadena? I think you ended.
Well, we moved to California, Los Angeles actually, before I was born.
Okay.
And it was Depression time, 1929 roughly. And
Good times.
people lost their jobs, they didn't have any income. And so as far as I can recall, they came to California hoping to
Make some money.
make a life. And my dad was kind of a handyman. He worked in everything as a young man, coal mines, you name it. And so he got a job, I
Well,
guess
was it a packaging place? Oh, you had a gas station first.
he had a gas station,
Yeah. He ran
a Shell gas station in LA
with
somewhere.
a glass pump,
Yes,
you watch
it's
the
old.
gas
Wow.
go up and
Yeah.
down.
Well, when we moved to Pasadena, he had the old style pumps, and they weren't they didn't have to crank them by hand. They had little electric pumps in them. And they had a glass bowl on top with a thing like a float, like a toilet has with a float in it. And that's when it would shut off. You push a button and it would fill up, and then it would stop when the float got
Like a toilet.
supposedly 10 gallons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he had a gravel lot, and as a boy, my job was to keep the gravel neat and tidy.
Wow. Times have changed, haven't they? And then Nancy, a little bit about your.
Yeah, my father was a cabinet maker by profession, and when the 1906 earthquake happened, he came to California because there was supposedly going to be a lot of work in California, and he went to San Francisco first, and that didn't work out. I have a half-sister, or had a half-sister, she's gone. But they moved down to Pasadena then, and he had his own shop for many years, and then the Depression hit, and the studios were just starting to work. So he got a job at different studios. And that was before they were unionized, so it was kind of the luck of the draw. You went to each studio to find out who was making a movie at that particular time.
So was that when they were talking movies, or was that before?
No, this was, talking movies came in about the time I was born,
Okay.
in the 20s.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was born in 30, but talking movies came in little before, but not very much. It was mostly silent.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he kept his shop through the war, through the Second World War, and then sold it. By then he was getting older. And that was a big step, and we added on a room to the house, and a storage shed for the lumber behind the garage, and different things. And he kept on doing odd jobs for people in Pasadena. When he first came to Pasadena, he really specialized in staircases, and Orange Grove was just being built. He did a lot of staircases there. He went to work at 20th Century Fox in the prop and miniature department and did a lot of miniatures because he'd bring projects home. The two that I remember is the clock in Laura that held the gun.
In the movie?
And yeah. And did you ever see it?
I did not. Laura?
Laura, yeah, it's
L-
Jean Turney.
Laura? Or
Laura.
Okay.
And the problem with that was that they wanted the door to open slowly. So if you pressed a button, it wasn't to pop open, it was to move very slowly because the music was gaining resistance and the gun was hidden there. And that worked out well. And then he worked in, what was the name of that movie that was on TV when TV started and they had the sailing ship?
Oh, golly.
We had a huge sailing ship that would have covered this table that he brought home, and he worked on it at night. And
So
so,
prop for
and that
the movie.
was because they used it to show it on the back lot. They had this huge lake at 20th Century Fox, and they floated it out, put all the shields up so they got reflected light, and they wave machine,
Wow.
which was just a man, the short, pushing the water. And they'd sail this out, and that was for the long shots.
Wow.
Because they didn't have a whole ship. They had half
That's
the ship
amazing.
on,
You guys have
half the ship
Interesting.
on the stage.
interesting
Big
parents
film.
and interesting childhood.
My neighbor introduced us,
Uh-huh.
and we went on a hike to Mount Low, and that's when he asked me for a date, and that's history after
That's
that.
great. So how old were you? Do you remember when you met?
Well, when we got married, we went together about 3 years. We got married when I was 21 and he was 22.
Uh-huh.
And by that time, he had realized that he was going to be drafted, so he joined the Navy. Yeah.
Right.
His best friend was killed by a sniper in Korea, and so
So
he was,
Yeah.
that's the first time I saw him cry.
Oh, so, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sad. But he decided then and there that
He was.
he was going to have a bunk to sleep
He's
in
not
or
gonna
something.
end up like that. Well,
Mhm.
we're glad, Bob. But the Navy was. What did you? I think you did.
Well, I was an auto mechanic before I went in the Navy.
Okay.
So naturally, I became an aircraft mechanic
Okay.
and I worked on engines, maintenance, and then I got transferred to fighter squadron from which was going to deploy, and they had jets. And that was the first jets that I had worked on. I'd always worked on the reciprocating engines. And so anyway, we got deployed on what's the name of I can't-
it aircraft?
the Wasp, USS Wasp, yeah, aircraft carrier. And it had the old style hydraulic catapults, and it had just a straight bow on the ship. And you've probably seen movies where they have the angled deck where they take off to the side. They didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it was...
Was that scary?
It wasn't.
You were out in the ocean off Korea, or where?
Right, off Korea. It was during the Korean War, and our squadron had Panther jets, which were subsonic. And they had straight wings. And they provided support for the infantry. And a lot of the times they couldn't fly because the weather was so bad over there. And but anyway, I had friends in the infantry, and they told me how much they appreciated the air support, that they got.
I bet.
And so
So
anyway,
how long were you?
I was in the Navy 4 years.
Okay.
And I spent, probably half on shore duty and the other half on the aircraft carrier. And it was exciting, actually. When you're that age, you don't think about all the danger. You do, but it's, it's not going to happen. Right.
You're invincible.
And we had people killed.
Yeah.
We got married when he got out of school. When he went in the Navy, he went to 2 different schools to learn how to work on aircraft. So we got married in 1952, September.
You guys got married the same year as my parents. And my mom was 21 too. And that's so strange that you have the exact same birthday.
Well, and then our first station was Point Magoo up the coast. And that went well until he got deployed.
Right.
And I worked for the Bank of America because in Oxnard there were not that many businesses at that particular time. It was mostly a farm community. And there was the Bank of Levy and Bank of America and the dime store and a couple of restaurants and a small women's boutique shop. So that's where I had majored in physical therapy
Interesting.
and quit school to get married. My father wasn't too happy about that.
Okay, so then going along, you ended up somehow in Solana
he went
Beach.
back to school when he got out of the Navy and got his degree in mechanical engineering at UCLA.
Okay.
So, and our first son was born, I think, 3 months before he graduated, so he had a hard time.
Well, I was having finals.
Oh dear. Always something, so you're sleep deprived.
Yeah. And then we waited a while, and he went for his master's at USC.
Wow.
And
Great
John was
schools.
born during that particular time.
So how were you supporting yourself? Were you
Well,
working and going to
David
school?
was born in 1961 and John was born in 1967. But he was born at Christmas. He was born on the 18th of December, so.
I went to work for the civil service. It was a bumper year for engineers. Everybody had lots of offers, even the guys with C averages. And so I was confused. I had so many offers, and the professor told me, go work for the Navy lab. They let you hands-on right away, and you get a lot of good experience, and then in a couple of years you might want to move on. Well, I stayed there 27 years. Because every time I thought about doing something else, why, I'd get a promotion or something. And It was fun. I really enjoyed what I did. I worked for the Navy, I wasn't in the Navy. And I did research and development on our underwater propulsion systems.
Wow. So that
It was a lot of fun.
helped, yeah, that helped build what? Those propulsion
Well,
systems?
mostly anti-submarine torpedoes. You know, there was a big deal about Russian submarines. And what we worked on in Pasadena and down here was lightweight torpedoes, which means they were about 10 feet long and 12 inches in diameter, and they could be fired from a torpedo tube on the deck of a destroyer, or they could be dropped from a helicopter, or they could be shot what they called Azarock, like on a rocket. It had a rocket motor on the back end. They could shoot it way out to where they thought the target was.
Wow,
And
interesting.
so I worked on several things. I worked on drag reduction for torpedoes. I worked on towed bodies. They wanted to have it like a sonar that would withstand going high speeds, not have to operate until you slowed down, but you didn't want to destroy it while you were going fast.
Okay.
The idea was to, what they called sprint and drift. What they wanted to search for a target, and if they didn't find it, they'd sprint out somewhere and then slow down and search again.
Wow. So, how did you choose Solana Beach?
Well, they
And what
closed the lab in Pasadena.
Okay.
This is, the Department of Navy makes a lot of odd decisions. And so I had the option of coming to San Diego or finding another job. And so we elected to come down here. And we had advance notice, so we had opportunities on weekends to come down and look all over. And we decided this was a nice place to live here.
And did you originally move into this home?
Yes.
And that must have been
We
right.
bought it as a slab.
Okay, I was gonna say that must have been right when they were building it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So what year did you actually?
74.
74.
It was supposed to be done in October of 1973, and then it got to be November, December, and we finally closed escrow at the end of January,
Okay.
1974. And I don't think I moved until March, because our
Well,
home in Altadena, it
I
was
was
a
here-
recession, and nothing was moving particularly.
Yeah, I was here a month
He was here.
before you came down with the boys.
But
And-
he didn't live in this house, he lived in a
Someplace else.
apartment.
Were there other homes in this development,
Oh,
maybe on the
yeah.
other side that were all done?
Well, the south side
Uh-huh.
was pretty much built out, and they were coming down this side. Chang built the homes, and he made some good decisions. He didn't build it straight down. The street above us, Santa Queta, wasn't built, and nothing was built below us when we moved in.
Yeah,
So,
terraced it nicely, so
and-
that people had views.
yeah, going down the hill, he staggered it, and then he built the east side